Yeah, the panel I was just on was about diversity in publishing. So there are two aspects of that that are particularly relevant to me. The first is about diversity of publishing models. So I'm an indie author. I self-publish the vast majority of my books, particularly in ebook and audiobook. But I've just become hybrid in that I've got a publishing deal for my paperbacks, which means it's easier for me to get them into bookshops, so I'm working with Hero Books on that. I also talked in the panel about diversity in a more traditional sense from the point of view of somebody, I'm gay and I write gay characters, so I write mainstream fiction, police procedurals, with a detective who happens to be gay. The stories aren't about her sexuality, they're about her job as a police detective, but it just so happens that there are storylines in there that involve her relationship. But what I like about that is that it's mainstream fiction aimed at a mainstream audience, but it represents a part of the community that isn't always in those kinds of books. Yes, I think the interesting thing that we all talked about was the idea that people shouldn't be censored in their writing, and if you're not from an underrepresented group but you want to write about that group, you shouldn't be prevented from doing that. And Penny in particular talked about that from a point of view of disability. She was keen to show the voices of people with disabilities writing about those disabilities, but also to see people who don't have disabilities writing about disabled people in their fiction, because the reality is the world isn't full of people who are like any one writer. And I think if we just wrote people like ourselves, we'd end up with books that didn't really represent the real world. Other takeaways, I think, around publishing are the fact that indie publishing can make it much easier for a lot of people to reach an audience. It does not mean in any way that it's a diminution of quality. There are some fantastic indie published books out there, some best-selling authors who have forged really successful careers, but have got control over their careers. And I talked about the fact that I like indie publishing because, to be honest, I'm a bit of a control freak, and I like to be able to decide what I write, when I publish it, and to have that direct relationship with my readers that I have, because there's nobody between me and them.